Well folks, welcome back to the workshop. Today we've got a Panasonic repair, and this is potentially the last Panasonic repair I could be doing, so thought I may as well put it onto a video. Panasonic tools, to be honest, my opinion of them, fantastic tools. One of the best things you can actually buy. Not the cheapest to buy, but for the actual build quality of Panasonic power tools and the actual last of them, how long they'll actually run for and the years you get out of them. Panasonic, fantastic. Now, they're not going to be the most powerful tool in the world, but for the amount of actual run time you get out of them, for the bang for your buck you get, Panasonic, one of the top brands out there. The problem with them here, one of the reasons why I'm not repairing them anymore here in Ireland, they're just becoming a bit of a rarity, to be quite honest. They're hard to actually get the tools, and they're very difficult to get the spare parts for them. Actual suppliers for the tools and the spare parts always seems to be changing, and a lot of the companies that was supplying spare parts are just starting to stop them. The last supplier I actually rang for parts for Panasonic tools, which actually was this drill, basically just said spare parts is too hard to get. They have to put in a massive stock order to get the parts. Nobody's actually even on Panasonic tools, so it takes a long time to get an order of parts through. Basically what they're saying is telling me to wait a few months and see if I can build up an actual list of parts instead of just one or two. But you're talking months and months to get the parts. They don't really seem to want to be ordering them in anymore. So they were the last crowd we actually got parts from. So from now on, not going to be looking at Panasonics anymore. By the looks of it, you can't get the spare parts. And if you can get them, they take way too long to get. Now that's me. I'm actually using a supplier for the parts. Actual wholesale supplier. There is other shops online that actually do still supply parts for Panasonic. Don't think they're Irish companies, but you can still get them. We don't use them companies. We actually go through suppliers because we have accounts with them. We don't order parts online, so that's out of the question for me. This one I had on before, couldn't get the parts for it, said it wasn't worth fixing. Customer did want to get it fixed, so he asked for the part numbers and he went out and got them himself. So he went to one of them companies, ordered the parts himself and got them sent out. The main thing that's needed was a brush ring, but he also wants a new motor fitted because the old one is fairly badly worn. So this is going to get a new motor and a new set of brushes. That's one of the perfect examples as well of Panasonic tools. Clips are gone on this, so it's actual nut and bolt holding together. Because this particular SDS drill, cordless Panasonic SDS, this was one of the best cordless SDS drills probably ever made. These things were just workhorses. Ran all the time, great power, great last out of them, gave very little trouble. Stopped running because of the brush holder, but we're going to fit a new motor as well. So this could be one of the last Panasonics you ever see on the channel. No guarantee of that, but if I can't get parts of them, they're not going to be fixed. Right, that's just in Ireland as well. Other countries might be different. You might have far more suppliers for parts, might be more readily available. But for me, I just can't get them. But anyway, we'll get into this thing. Let's see if we can get her fixed up. Very much like the DeWalt with lots of screws in it. Now, this is the main problem. Brushes totally worn out, nothing left of them. Because these brushes are so wide and thick, it's very difficult to get a donor set to actually fit in and replace them. Plus the actual leads are very thick as well. They're nicely made. They're a big brush made for a lot of work. Because of the size of them, they can take a lot of heat as well. And the brush holder, not plastic, it's actually Bakelite, so this doesn't melt. Plus big heavy leads, properly riveted on as well. Really, really nicely made machines. Most other brands brush holders melt in them, not these Panasonics. So we need to replace that. That's the main problem. But also that armature is badly worn. You can actually see just how much the com bar is worn away instead of being flat. It's now got a curve to it. So that's not going to last an awful lot longer anyway. So he just wants this changed now before it does fail. Now, when are you going to get an armature like that on a cordless tool? Plus, unlike a lot of tools, the fan itself hasn't got straight fins, so it's cooling on both forward and reverse. It's got angled fins, so it's mainly cooling when it's driving forward, so it's designed to be running forward all the time. Not really made for going in reverse. Actual gearbox, very similar to the DeWalt as well, all bolted together, but all aluminium gearbox housing. And one of the weirdest gearboxes, to be honest, because inside is nearly bone dry. There's no actual real seal on this thing. That has just got two O-rings sitting here, and it literally just drops onto the two change levers. So there's no real seal on the gearbox. Armature as well, not much of a seal on that, it's just the bearing holding the grease in. But inside, barely any grease. Any other brand of SDS drill, when the grease dries up like this here, destroys the piston, destroys the O-rings, it just stops hammering. These Panasonics, they're actually designed with less grease in them, and whenever they're running, they just keep running. So I don't actually need to do anything with this end, but I might just drop a little bit of grease in there, and I mean a little bit of grease, a pea size amount maybe, just down around the piston and on the gears, just so it has something. But honestly, them Panasonics, you'd look at that there with such little grease on it and you'd wonder how it ever even hammers at all, let alone for the length of time that these actually run for. Quite amazing, so well designed, so well thought out. Actual inside of it is very simple but very, very rugged, so it actually just doesn't need an awful lot of grease. It's just designed very, very well and built very well. So that is fine, just a little touch of grease just as a top up. I think we need to change these brushes first and then stick in a new armature. Before we do that, we'll just give it a quick wee clean with an air compressor to get rid of all the dust. Right, first things first, change the brushes. Just in case you're ever needing the brushes, it's that number there. Now when you are changing them, just be careful of the leads. Don't reverse them. They go on one way. If you change the polarity on the leads, you'll actually change which direction their switch is going forward and reverse. Because that fan is more designed for running faster forward, the forward speed is going to be faster than reverse. So if you get that wrong when you're drilling forward, it's going to be running way too slow. So don't change them leads around. The big black one is to this side, and the smaller white one is to the opposite side. big heavy leads in this as well, so they can take a lot of current, but you have to sort of wrangle them into shape first. So that's sitting down there. That black lead will sit down along here. So you can see that one's already bent down. So it'll be clipping down into here. Right, that should be out for now. Get rid of that. Your armature, that's your number there. And of course, one of the best things about Panasonic, made in Japan. One of the best places for tools to be manufactured. Japanese love good quality, and it shows. Now, you can see the amount of wear that's on that, the amount of work that's done. That's still actually good, it's still running. It's just the actual con bar is worn out, concaved, so it's not going to last an awful lot longer. You just rather spend the money now, get it replaced now, instead of sending it back in at some other date to repair it again. Cheaper to do it now and just have one labour cost on it. So that there is ready to go. And just look at the actual quality of the thing. Even just the way the windings are put on. Nicely tucked in, nice and compact. Big heavy epoxy resin binder down here to keep it all attached and staked onto the con bars. Actual bearings on it. It's actually a TPA bearing, so what's made in Taiwan. They're alright, but they're not the best of qualities. Would rather have seen an NSK bearing there or something like that. TPA would be better. They're a rugged bearing. They can take a lot of abuse. Just not going to be the most precise in the world. But then again, it's on a power tool. Doesn't really need to be all that precise. It's going to have the tolerance needed. And I suppose if it is more rugged, probably would be better suited to an SDS drill. Still, they're not the most expensive one in the world. But other than the bearings, that's a hell of an armature. Really nice quality. So we'll get that on. Before we do that, I'll get a wee touch of goo goo in here. Just put a bit of the heavy stuff on. And I'm not putting on much. Just a little dab, because if you put on too much, because this thing's not totally sealed, it's just going to come out again. And like I say, it's manufactured with very little grease in it, so you just do not need all that much in it. Get that on. Push your armature in. Give it a little spin. Make sure it's running true, it's not actually wobbling back and forth. So next is your air deflector. You need to put your field on. The field is sighted. So that is fitting in like so. Big cutout here and a small one. Matches this. The other side's just two small cutouts. And there's well. There's a wee cutout on the air deflector here. It fits in between the two magnets. So that also has to line up. Like that. And you can fit everything all together. And actually, before I do that, just put these O-rings down here again so they line up. It's easier to have them sitting on there than trying to balance them on this. I'll just put this wee lens cover on the LED light. to save doing it later. Then you can drop everything in all together. As well, these brushes, the brush spring is actually sitting off to one side. It's resting on the brass holder and not the brush. So make sure you push that over and make sure it's engaged on the brush. That one there's already moved over. So that's now good to go. Line everything up, drop it down. Because this is a new brush holder, the leads are going to be a bit stiff. So you're going to have to press it down. All you have to do is get it lined up on the two holes. So the change levers are in position. Just give the change levers a wee turn. There we go. Actual rollers onto the actual meshing gears will self-locate again. So unlike the actual Bosch one, where you have to actually locate pins onto springs and different things, it has to be exact. These Panasonics aren't exact at all. They're well designed and they're quite rugged. So once the actual pins go on, you can just turn the lever and it'll self-locate onto the gear. Press that on, line up your field so the actual pins are located in, and that should be us good to go. And as well, don't forget this little strap for holding down your gearbox, and also take note it is sighted. So this wee cutaway actually sits over this wee angle piece of the gearbox housing. So she's designed to fit, you can't put it on the other way around. It's just a strap and screws to hold it down in position. The last thing then, on the inside, is two screws to hold down the brush holder. And that should be her. Just make sure your change lever's right and your wiring's okay. Make sure that pin's on there for your lanyard. Good. That should be her. That is the Panasonic EY7880 28.8 volt cordless SDS drill. You brush holder and an armature and she's up and running again. How good are these things? I've had these things in before in the past. Generally it's just a brush holder, the main thing that actually wears out and needs to be replaced. The odd time when they've done a lot of work like this one, you have to change the armature. But I've had these on before in the past with that actual aluminium gearbox housing on this side has actually done that much work. She started to wear through the housing and all the plastic starting to wear away, and the actual gearbox housing starts becoming loose, starts rubbing off the housing and actually wear through the aluminium. So there's actual extra holes in the gearbox, and the thing still running and hammering. So yeah, Panasonic SDS drill, one of the most robust and best cordless SDS drills you can buy. These things here, when they were available, were the tool to buy. If you did an SDS drill, this was one of the best you could get. Mainly because hammer drill and drill only, no hammer only. Wee cordless drills like this here, great for general stuff, great for boring holes, but a cordless drill with hammer only for actually doing a bit of chiseling, terrible idea. Boys start using them for taking off tiles of walls, taking off adhesives. If we're cutting a track for a bit of chising, they start chiseling out with something like this here. Never a good idea. They're good for rotation hammer and rotation only. Hammer only, fairly hard on them, and generally when you're doing that sort of work, they're ran for a lot longer than what they should be. When you're using a hammer drill, you're just drilling a couple of holes, having a rest in between. So that's one of the reasons these things last so long. Only 2 modes on them. That thing there, back in the day when they were still available, because this model's actually obsolete now, when they were available, they were the tool to buy. The things just lasted an absolute lifetime. It's amazing the amount of work they actually done. Even just looking at this one, housing starting to fall apart on it, rubber's all coming off. Still running grand now with an armature and a brush ring. But the hammer, that's the main thing. Barely anything ever goes wrong with the actual hammer mechanism. Anybody has these and bought them in the past, they're probably still using them today. The only thing that would normally puts them out of commission is the control board, if it fails, and if the batteries start failing. If you're replacing these 28 volt batteries, if you're replacing 2 of them, it's probably not going to be worth replacing them. Might be cheaper just to replace the whole thing. That's her. That's one of the last Panasonics I'm going to be fixing on here. 2 new parts, keeps her up and running. I'll just test the hammer action here now, make sure she does work. Look at that. Still hammering sweet. That's her. Panasonic EY7880. Fixed up again with a new brush ring and a new armature. Main thing was the brush ring. You just wanted to replace the armature before it did fail because of the amount of wear that's on it. Get it on once for a repair instead of twice. Anyway folks, thanks for watching. More than likely that might be the last Panasonic repair you see on the channel, unless somebody gets the parts themselves. Cheers for watching. Give us a wee like and a follow if you're enjoying the videos. Cheers.